Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, I have said in the past that Stephen Flynn on Wednesday failed to turn up at PMQs and instead travelled to Holyrood so that he could spread his poison into the ears of all those who would listen, like Wormtongue. He worm-tongued his way around Holyrood, and it worked. Gotta give him his due. He went up there to spread the word that the Greens were toxic, and the next thing you know, they've gone. And it worked so well that he's dropped his boss right in it. Because even the night before, the evening before, Humza Yousaf was busy saying how great and valuable the Greens were, and then next morning, bang, they've gone. And it can only be from the words of Stephen Flynn. Now, Flynn, of course, is desperate to become leader of the SNP. Now, to do that, he would then have to give up his seat in Parliament, go up to Scotland, try and find somewhere where he could stand and get voted in, etc., etc. It's a bit of a palaver, but they're the rules of the party. But he's desperate for it. He wants change, and I think he sees his future being at Holyrood. I think he's an idiot. I don't think he's up for the job. He's never held a ministerial position. He doesn't understand it. He's inexperienced. Yes, he's leading the Westminster group of SNP MPs, but that's not the same as being the First Minister or anything. And without kind of experience like that, I don't think he'd understand it. But it was him who kicked the Greens out ultimately. It was him who forced Humza Yousaf's hand. And he says it was done in the national interest of Scotland. And for that alone, I've got to agree with him. Let's take a look. So kicking the Greens out of the Scottish Government was in the national interest, says Stephen Flynn. Now, I don't agree with him in many things. On this, I think everyone agrees. I think everyone on every political side, except the Greens, thinks that it was a good idea. Certainly the Tories do. I know Labour do. Lib Dems were glad to see the back of them. And about 75% perhaps of the SNP, both at Westminster and Holyrood, were also glad to see the back of them. The only real people who weren't overly keen, of course, were the gruesome twosome of Geoffrey and the Imp. Think of all that money they're losing, although cushioned by their walkaway money. Sweet. But the SNP Westminster leader said that Humza Yousaf had shown leadership by ending the Bute House Agreement, even though we all know it was Flynn what did it. This was not a decision by Humza Yousaf, and despite the spin and the bollocks that are coming out, we know this. It is complete horseshit to say that this was Humza Yousaf's decision. This was not. He was bounced into it by Flynn. So well played, Flynn. Gotta give him that. Flynn said has said that kicking the Greens out of the Scottish Government was in the national interest. The SNP Westminster leader claimed Humza Yousaf had shown leadership by dramatically ending the Bute House Agreement. He didn't show leadership. If it was shown leadership, he'd have booted them out months ago. In fact, he would have done best day one, saying whatever agreement existed between him and between them and Nicola Sturgeon. That was weakness. Day one, he should have taken control, shown the party he had balls, show the party he wasn't afraid of running a minority government, but just saying we cannot do with the toxic, the toxic policies of the Greens. It's what a leader would have done. But Humza, no leader, is he? The First Minister announced the power sharing deal had been terminated with immediate effect at a press conference in Edinburgh yesterday morning, with the Nats now forming a minority government. The decision prompted a furious backlash from the Greens, stamping of tiny feet, gnashing of tiny teeth, and in Geoffrey's case, yelling out in that strange Canadian-Scottish accent, which is neither one thing nor the other. A bit like a possum. His decision prompted this furious backlash, who said it was the most political cowardice and craving into the most reactionary forces in the country. They're hardly the most reactionary forces, are they? Come on. But he did receive support from Flynn, who caused him to actually do it. One of the most senior figures in the SNP. Flynn said the First Minister has shown leadership in national interest as the party for all of Scotland. That's a joke. He said, we work to deliver jobs and economic growth. You've done everything else other than. Your whole policies for years now have destroyed economic growth. It says to protect the future of our NHS, again, massive underfunding year on year on year on year on year on, etc. So no. And provide support in a cost of living crisis, much of which has been caused by you raising taxes. The Bute House Agreement was signed by Nicola Sturgeon in the aftermath of the 2021 Holyrood election and was supposed to usher in a new era of cooperation between the SNP and the Greens, as well as securing a pro-independence majority of MSPs. And yet, strangely, it didn't really work out like that, did it? It was Greens policies every time. The SNP came up with nothing. It was all green, 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 all mad, 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 and all fail, fail, fail. And nobody in the party, in the SNP, had the balls to say, for God's sake, just shut up, sit down. You've had your go, ours now. Vote our way or you're out. And that's what they should have done. And shown the growth and shown who's boss. But as I said before, it was the little green tail wagging the big yellow dog. It was never popular with all nationalists and has come under severe strain over the last week since the Scottish Government ditched key climate targets. Sorry, reading is hard. That decision prompted fury from the rank and file members, who then secured a vote planned for next month on whether the deal should continue. That was the ultimatum, and the moment the ultimatum was given, Humza Yousaf should have manned up, scratched his tiny, tiny balls and said, OK, that's it, you're done. I will not be subjected to an ultimatum. Go, you're out. That would have put a little shock on their face. They wouldn't have been used to that, people standing up to them. It's not happened. Yousaf was the only contestant in last year's leadership contest who wanted to continue the coalition, but both Ash Regan and Kate Forbes said they would ditch the agreement. They said the green tail is wagging the SNP dog, bada bing. I haven't read this. But Yousaf insisted the agreement was worth its weight in gold, but the same weight could be called shit, and that's exactly what it was. It was bad policy after bad policy after bad policy. It comes as Flynn grows in influence among nationalist circles. He's seen as being influential in the Make Scotland Tory-free messaging. Now, he doesn't mean Tory MSPs or Tory MPs or councillors. He means Tory-free. He's talking genocide here. That's how they're talking. Not Make Scotland Tory MP-free, Tory politician-free. He wants no Tories in Scotland. Kick them out. Ethnic cleansing of Tories, you know. He's a big advocate of the party's stance not to extend the windfall tax on oil and gas giants. Of course not. He lives and works in Aberdeen. He knows if he came in and did that, he'd be out of a job tomorrow. Flynn became the SNP's Westminster leader in December following a coup which ousted his predecessor Blackford, who is now desperate, of course, to become a minister. A lord. He likes the high life in London and all the pies it brings. He beat Nicola Sturgeon ally Alison Thewlis in the leadership contest with a 26-17 majority. Can you imagine Clueless being down there running that group? Flynn, who writes a regular column for The Record, has also been touted, blah, 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 we don't care. So there he is, a man who's actually caused everything that's happened. This is the guy that by his actions yesterday and the night and the day before has caused the Greens to go, weakened Humza Yousaf's position, is likely to cause the end of Humza Yousaf. He must surely know that Kate Forbes is going in. He can't take the role. He's an MP. He's got to be an MSP to take the role of leader. So he can't become leader. And because he's not in the Holyrood, he can't become First Minister. But I think his plan is that he fights and wins the general election, then resigns in 2026, goes up to Scotland for the Scottish elections, wins a safe seat in the Scottish elections, enters Holyrood. Now he can down in London be the deputy leader, but he goes in. It becomes and the plan is that SNP will win, become the next party, becomes a deputy first minister, and then in time becomes the first minister. That's his plan, I think, and he's doing that because he knows as first minister he'll earn more money than being a prime minister in London, which is of course he can't ever do. So his only goal is power and money. Cynical much? Don't care. Coming up. No, I don't care that he wants the power and the money. That's what all politicians do. It's why they're in it, really, isn't it? They're not in it for the public good. So we can't really knock him for that. He's the same as everyone else. But do you see leader when you look at Stephen Flynn? You just see arrogance and you just see inexperience and you just see someone who's never actually sort of had that level of control. It's very weird. He is someone who actually did have a real job before going into politics, which is a tick in the right box. But without ever having any kind of ministerial portfolio, how on earth does he ever think he's going to be the First Minister? Weird man. And of course, that's assuming the SNP even exist. The way it's going, it's unlikely. Anyway, we'll finish there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.